Tasmania has developed a fantastic reputation for making sparkling wine. It's even challenging champagne in France. And I think the best comes from right here, Clover Hill in northeast Tasmania, Lebrenna. Luckily enough, I know the CEO. His name's Adam Torpy, and we're going to go meet him now. Adam, how long have you been involved in Clover Hill?
Since 2005.
And Toltani, which is Clover Hill's sister company, was at the same time, or did you start there earlier?
No, at the same time.
This year, we're in 2016 now. What are the grapes looking like?
Look, we've had an exceptional year. It's actually our 6th largest harvest on record, but I say largest, but also mean with quality as well. So we've had a fantastic year. And our vineyard in the south of Tasmania and in the Clover River Valley at Tea Tree just picked up Vineyard of the Year. So we're ecstatic to receive that award, and I think it's just a reflection of the vineyard practices that we're putting into the site, which makes the quality so exceptional.
Another important thing I think with Tasmanian wine and Tasmanian bubbles is the time of year in which you pick it. What time of the year are you starting to pick grapes for a good year here in Tasmania?
Well, it's much later than the mainland, of course, and because of the climate also, which is influencing that. We can start as late as March, and sometimes you can go right up until end of April. Today's our last day of picking our Pinot Noir, so the second week of April is normally when we'd sort of finish.
And Pinot Noir, people would see that as a standalone varietal that they would see in a bottle shop, but
Correct.
Pinot Noir goes into sparkling.
Yeah, it's one of the champagne varieties that we use. We're Chardonnay dominant, but Pinot Noir would represent 30 to 40% of our blends traditionally, and it's a very, very integral grape variety to the house style that we're making here.
Thank you for sitting down and giving us a little bit more information about Clover Hill and what people should be looking for when they're picking a good bottle of bubbles. Yep. I would say, especially when it comes to bubbles, because if you're having bubbles, you're normally celebrating something. Learn about the provenance of where it comes from. Something like Clover Hill, there is so much provenance and artistry and winemaking skill that goes into making this bottle of wine that I reckon this is the way to go. Would you take me for a little tour of the vineyard?
Let's do it.
How are we competing against champagne?
Well, to quote my former winemaker, who is French, he said that what we've been able to achieve in 30 years, it's taken champagne to achieve in 300. So we have come a long way in 30 years. Very proud of our efforts here, not just at Clover Hill, but just the collaborative industry approach to sparkling. It's the champagne route of the Southern Hemisphere. And the next evolution for us is to build a cellar door, which will be completed in December. And that's our goal, to have that up and running in December.
Because if you look at that view and you think about the quality of the bubbles, you have to bring them together and allow people to get access to it.
It's a match made in heaven.
Welcome back to the beautiful Clover Hill Vineyard in northeast Tasmania. We're joined by Adam Torpy, who is the CEO of Clover Hill and Toltani. You're here to help us cook, but also give us a little bit more information about Clover Hill, and in particular, the renders of what's behind us, because I think that's the most exciting thing that's going to be happening here on the Clover Hill site over the next... When were you looking at opening?
December, that's the goal, having it open by
December 2016.
Yep.
So if you're floating around Tasmania after December 2016, come and visit Clover Hill and you'll see this beautiful new structure.
Our doors will be open.
All right, we're going to cook. We're going to do a little mushroom spaghetti.
Okay.
I reckon with a great glass of bubbles, something that's creamy and rich will go really well. Rightio, let's get stuck into it. You're on the pans, I'm going to chop this time. So we're going to pop a little bit of oil in there to start with. A little knob of butter, shallots go in, a couple of shallots diced. We've got a clove of garlic, which we've diced. And then I'm going to pop in about 5 sprigs of thyme. I'm just going to saute that gently down. So in with those shallots and garlic, we're going to put a couple of large Swiss browns, and then I'm going to do about 4 shiitakes, and then a good handful of oyster mushrooms as well, which we're going to tear in there. Keep stirring, and eventually that moisture will start to come out of those mushrooms, and we'll get some colour on them.
That smells amazing.
And you're a Tassie boy.
I am indeed, yes.
I knew there was a reason I liked you.
But from the south they've been,
Oh, well, actually, let's change that.
Grew up in Hobart.
Yep.
Still have a very strong connection to Tasmania. A lot of family and friends still here, so it's one of the appeals to me coming to work at Clover Hill, to be connected with Tasmania again. So.
Yeah. And you've been involved with Toltani, Clover Hill and the Goblet Wine family for a while.
Yep.
Where did you start and what roles have you had?
So I was originally recruited to be the CEO for Tautani and Clover Hill back in 2005, and that position hasn't changed. And the family that I work for also have a number of other wineries around the world, and I ended up running those for quite some time.
And I love that the Gollet wine family, I reckon it is the smartest way of doing things. Find that area in the world that does something really well and go there and do it.
Exactly.
Don't work against nature, don't work against the environment. Just figure out what grows well there and grow that. So this was a dairy farm originally, wasn't it?
Yeah, 1986.
So what about this said vineyard when they came here?
Yeah, it's a good question. Latitude, for one, it's if you were to flip the latitude around the Northern Hemisphere, it's very similar to that of Champagne.
It's a good place to start.
Very good place to start. Have a maritime influence, as we can see out the back here. We can see the Bass Strait. And then we've got a natural amphitheatre here that sort of protects it. So not having the frost is a big deal, especially when you're dealing in sparkling varieties. So, and then obviously it was a dairy farm, so the soils are well nourished, and you've got rich volcanic soils on top of that. So it was a perfect ingredients to create a vineyard site.
Ticked a lot of boxes.
Did indeed.
All right, that's been in there, I reckon, 3 or 4 minutes with those mushrooms. Now I'm going to put the oysters in. Oysters are a little bit more delicate, so they don't need as long a cooking time. I'm just going to tear them and throw our oyster mushrooms in. And then we'll cook them off for another couple of minutes. When I've got a lot of colour on those mushrooms, that's when we'll move on to the next step.
How am I doing?
You're doing a wonderful job. You cook a lot at home?
I do. I love cooking. It's a great way to relax. Love using sort of fresh produce.
And you've been to my house for dinner before.
I have.
For full disclosure, we actually know each other quite well. All right, 2 more minutes, come back and join us and we'll move on to the next step. That's got a really nice colour on it. You want a lot of caramelisation on mushrooms. You want to drive out, there's so much moisture in a mushroom, you want to drive all that out and get all that flavour. So this is our reconstituted porcini, so dried porcinis, just cover them with some really hot chicken stock, reduce it down. You can throw the porcinis out if you want because you've really taken all the flavour out of them, but I like the chewy texture in the pasta. That stock and the mushrooms in. And then I'm going to steal a little bit of your wine that you chose for this.
Okay.
Can you open it for me?
I can indeed.
And I need about half a cup, so about 125 mils in there with that. And the acidity of the wine and the creaminess of the wine are going to do 2 things. One, the acidity is going to help break through the richness of the dish, but that buttery sort of flavour that you were talking about you get from this wine is going to help reinforce the creaminess of the sauce.
It's really coming from the Chardonnay grapes.
Yeah. So that's it.
Wow, that smells.
Comes straight off, doesn't it? It's
Does
really
indeed.
good. So I'm going to reduce that, not by much, maybe 30 seconds under a high heat, and then our cream. And this just ties everything together. I don't want it to be a really creamy sauce. I still want you to get all the mushroom flavour, but this just helps tie everything together. Little crack of pepper.
Such a simple dish too, isn't it?
It is. The simplest things are always the best. When you've got good produce and you're having it with a good wine, that's all you want. Our pasta, which we've pre-cooked. So we've cooked our pasta to al dente, taken it out, covered it with a bit of oil, and then you can keep this in the fridge, covered with some cling film, and when you make a sauce, you don't have to worry about boiling your pasta. Grab a handful of it, throw it in your sauce. The sauce itself will warm your pasta through. So a couple of handfuls of our spaghetti. You can be in charge of pouring the wine for us.
I can do that.
And that's it, mate.
Done.
You can make that at home in 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And then just some nice delicate leaves of parsley around the dish. And that is our wild mushroom pasta.
Cheers, mate.
Just need to go find a nice place in the vineyard to eat it.